The Louisiana Restaurant Association presents the We Live to Eat podcast. It is said in Louisiana that a great deal of our culture revolves around food. The We Live to Eat podcast will explore Louisiana's restaurant industry one episode at a time. Laissez les bon temps rouler.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the We Live to Eat podcast, the official podcast for the Louisiana Restaurant Association. I am your host, Quinn Williams, and with me today is a very special guest. He is the general manager for Brennan's. He's been general manager since 2014, I believe. Please help me and welcome Kristen Pendleton.
Great to be here with you.
How are you?
I am fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing good. That's fantastic to hear. So you've been Brennan's general manager since 2014, which is about 11 years at this point.
That's correct.
But I wanted to start off by talking about your experience in the restaurant industry before Brennan's.
Sure.
Where you got your start, what got you interested in the restaurant industry.
Okay. You just want me to just let it fly?
Just let it fly.
Sure. So I'm one of those folks who had gone to college and not done terribly well and was wasting a moderate amount of my family's money. And so my father said, hey, why don't we stop doing this? Because you're not happy and I'm not happy for different reasons. So I actually stopped. I joined the military. And my family had a long history in the military. I joined as well, all of us in the Army. I did something very different. Loved what I did. Unfortunately, I got hurt. So when I got hurt, the Army had to make a decision, or the Army made the decision for me. I could either separate from the Army or do a very different job than what I signed up for. And the options presented to me, most of which were in the personnel, were really office-based jobs, and that's not what I did. I was in the special operations community. And so I decided to get out, went back to college, this time did a little bit better, albeit slowly, and I needed to make money. So I started waiting tables at a very good restaurant group, Great American Restaurants. They're located in the DC area, specifically Northern Virginia. And, I was at that age where I was cocky because what I had done in the military. Those that know me would tell you I'm pretty outgoing as it is. Right. And I was fortunate to meet there probably my first mentor in this industry. And his name was Dwight Fuller, and he was the general manager of the restaurant I worked at. Okay. And so he said, okay, you feel you're that good. And so he kept giving me little projects to kind of find out if I could conquer them. And most of them were around team building and, how could I develop other people? And so I kind of kept accepting the challenges, and I kept, ultimately meeting them. And so from there, I went to a restaurant in DC that is no longer there, where I met my second mentor, Jay Coldren, who had come from the Inn at Little Washington. And that was my first foray into what I would argue is classic fine dining. Okay. And so that was really an eye-opening experience for me. Great American is again a very good restaurant group, but I think one of the big differences, and one of the things I've tried to bring at Brennan's over the course of the 11 years, is the difference between being an order taker and an experienced creator. Right. And so that was one of the things that Jay really taught me. He also taught me the idea behind not just reciting what's on the menu, but truly knowing what is on your menu and where it comes from in order to create that atmosphere. And then it was just, the last piece from him was, and it's a statement I still make today, which is, we don't do things the right way, we just do them our way. And so getting people to understand that concept, that, every restaurant is really good and every restaurant does really interesting things. And so it's not about right or wrong, it's about what works for your restaurant And whether that's the technical skills, the hospitality skills, or ultimately the culture you're creating, is what culture do you want, and then getting people to buy into that culture.
Right.
And so from there, I had the opportunity to interview to work for Thomas Keller and Per Se in New York, which was at the time one of the top 10 restaurants in the world, a Michelin 3-star restaurant. And quite frankly, I had no business whatsoever applying for that job, but they reached out, if you will, and I reached out. And that was one of Jay's advice, like, apply. Who cares if you don't get it? Like, go through, have the experience of applying and see what you learn. And if you get the job, it's going to be exceptional for your career. Fortunately, I was hired and met some amazing people while I was there. A gentleman named Anthony Rudolph, who would later become the general manager of Per Se, and another gentleman named Paolo Novello, who at the time was one of the assistant general managers of Per Se, who both took their time to teach me and make me feel very welcome. And that was a huge lesson for me, because I would say most of the rest of the team did not make me feel welcome. And not because of it wasn't personal, but you know, New York is a very tight-knit market, especially in that Michelin 3-star crowd. And so the idea that I was going to have to learn some things that they had all just been operating with still serves me to this day. Like, once you accept somebody on your team, then make them a part of your team and commit to teaching them and training them and making them who you want to be. So I spent my time at Per Se. Unfortunately, my mom got really sick, so I had to move back to Washington, D.C., and then worked at a couple of smaller family restaurants before joining the Knightsbridge Restaurant Group, which is a very well-regarded group of restaurants. I helped them open their first Italian concept, Viviana. It's now changed names, but there I worked with a very good partner who has since gone on to have his own restaurant group, Nick Stefanelli, and we just kept chopping wood like everybody in our industry does. Every day you just keep showing up, chopping wood. And then the owner asked me to help him be the director of operations and help oversee the operations in all 8 of the restaurants at the time, 3 of which were Indian restaurants. And so we had lots of different concepts. And then one fateful late summer day, I got a call from the Ralph Brennan Restaurant Group looking for candidates. And the people I recommended were not what they were looking for. And when I expressed some interest, it was a fascinating interview process. But ultimately, Ralph was apparently very, very desperate for something or someone. So he offered me the job, and here we are 11 years later.
I find it interesting that your story starts out with you just trying to make ends meet in college, waiting tables. I feel like that's the story of a lot of people who had no prior experience or family experience in the restaurant industry. They just kind of on a whim got this job, and like, I guess similar to you, something took hold of them and realized, oh, this is actually a really great industry to be a part of. Let's see where it takes you.
100%. I mean, I think that's one of the best things about our industry. You know, if you do a lot of other things, your quote unquote traditional careers, you know, a lawyer, a banker, engineer, you know, even if it's or something different like being a plumber or an electrician, or, you know, and all those are great jobs that are really important, but they do require a lot of schooling and education in order to be successful in those careers. I would say the restaurant industry, you can be equally successful and not need that traditional education to be successful. You just need a great attitude and a good work ethic, and the industry will wrap its arms around you and bring you along.
Would you say your experience in the military helped create that work ethic that made you as successful as you have been in the restaurant industry?
I would say the military wasn't the work ethic. I acquired that from my parents. I
Okay.
think the military was more about the attention to detail and
Hmm.
the needing to be constantly attending to those details, not
Right.
periodically, but every moment of every day you have to watch those details, especially in the Special Operations Command, because it's all about those details. And if you
Right.
ask any great restaurateur, any great chef, any great general manager, they'll tell you they can teach anybody how to do anything, but
Hmm.
can you pay attention to those details every time you do a task? And if you
Right.
can, there is no limit to how successful you can be in this industry.
Hmm. When the Ralph Brennan had contacted you about trying to find a general manager for their restaurant they're about to open, and of course you had your experience in the New England area of restaurants. Did you have any idea about Southern cuisine or New Orleans cuisine when he had contacted you?
I did not. I mean, I had worked for a short period of time helping a friend or some friends open a restaurant outside of the Orlando area, but that was really not Southern cuisine. That
Right.
cuisine was more American, continental, if you
Yeah,
will.
yeah, yeah.
I had visited New Orleans a couple times, but nothing to to understand what it was going to be
Hmm.
reopening an iconic American restaurant like Brennan's.
Right. So it was kind of a learning curve for you to be like, oh, this is very much different than what you're used to.
Absolutely, and that was one of the allures of the opportunity was not only being a part of a team and reopening an iconic American restaurant like Brennan's, but also
Mhm.
it was very different from anything else I had already done. I mean, I had been the single restaurant general manager, I had been the director of operations for a group of restaurants,
Right.
but there was certainly a period of time where Brennan's has more staff than all 8 of those restaurants
Oh,
combined.
wow. That's incredible.
Yes.
If you remember, one of the things that Ella Brennan told you was hospitality is the only word that matters. Everything else
Mhm.
follows. Are you do you still feel strongly about those words that she told you, even to this day?
100%.
Hmm.
Look, there's lots of great people are basically saying some version of the same thing, which is people will forgive a bad experience if you were nice to them during that experience.
Right.
People will just not forgive being treated poorly.
Hmm.
And that to me is bad hospitality. There is no reason to not be nice,
Right.
even to people that are not being nice to you.
Hmm. Of course.
Yeah, I mean that's when a real pro shows themselves is when a
Hmm.
guest is just coming at you both barrels. Can you stand there and take it, whether you think you deserve it or not? And
Right.
then can you respond with kindness? Can you respond with compassion and
Hmm.
understanding and move through that moment? And if you can, almost every time those guests will be your guests for a lifetime.
Right. One of the things you've also said is the one of the main factors about the hospitality industry is to make sure that the guests have fun. Would you say that correlates with your maybe well-known colorful pastel colors that you tend to wear as general manager?
I mean, that's a part of it.
Hmm.
New Orleans is also by its nature just a very colorful city.
Yes. Yes.
If you're in DC and I mean, my any of my old bosses would have a stroke if I wore, a pink and white seersucker to work in the
Right.
summer or a pink sports
Hmm.
coat in the fall. New Orleans, people don't even
Right.
bat an eye at you, and even
Hmm.
people visiting New Orleans, like it fits. If
Hmm.
if if I walked around and if I asked my managers to walk around in navy blue, black, or charcoal gray suits all the time, it doesn't fit with New Orleans. It's not authentic,
No.
and
No.
that's one of the things that Ralph charged me with since day one was
Hmm.
look, I'll teach you about New Orleans. I need you to keep us authentic. And that's one of those things that I have really embraced year after year. And
Hmm.
there's lots of things we do at Brennan's that I would never do in those other markets that I have to do here because if not, it's just not authentic.
Right. And for that matter, one of the things you're very well known for is your footwear. You've said before that you don't really spend much on clothes or cars, but the one thing you'll spend money on is a nice pair of shoes. Tell me about that philosophy of nice shoes.
That comes from my time in the Army.
Okay.
That is all about, you have to take care of your feet.
Mm-hmm.
And in this industry, anyone that's been in this industry for 15 minutes will tell you, you have to take care of your feet. So it's not as much about the look. Again, New Orleans allows me to have a little bit more play with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I, with all the tableside cooking we do at Brennan's, I'm just not going to spend a lot of money on suits, because at any given time, I'm going to have a variety of banana Foster, steak Diane sauce, eggs, whatever. That's going to get on the sleeves of my suit.
Mm-hmm.
My shoes, I just have to stay comfortable so that I'm available for my staff and available for my guests.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's always the other interesting thing about that is, when you're talking to staff about uniforms and they're like, well, why do you care about what kind of shoes we wear? No one notices. I'm able to point out and say, how many of you all have seen a guest comment on my shoes? And invariably, everyone will raise their hand. I'm like, don't tell me people don't notice. They notice. They may not comment, but they absolutely notice if your uniform is right. And that includes your shoes.
One of the things that I'm very interested to know about, and you could probably go ad nauseum to explain it to me. Tell me a bit about sabering. How that was that one of the initial perks of being general manager? Is that something that just kind of fell onto your lap? Have you had any experience beforehand doing champagne sabering before?
I had no experience. So one of our goals at Brennan's, and it's I think we do a very good job at achieving the goal, is to be the champagne house of the South.
Mm-hmm.
We really believe that coming to Brennan's is a celebration, and what better thing to drink when you're celebrating than champagne?
Right.
So not only is it about having this spectacular collection of champagne, and we really do, it's what else can we do? What's next?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my managers it drives them crazy, because that's one of my things. Like, okay, what's next? What's the next thing we're going to do? Like, it's not just about what's on today's menu and seasonality, whether that's drinks or food or whatever it is. It's what's next? What else can we do to elevate the experience? What can we do so when guests leave, they say, wow. And again, if that's me walking around in a bright pink cape teaching people to saber, but guests tend to remember those moments more than they will remember food. And look, I don't care if you're at a Michelin 3-star restaurant or at a Michelin no-star restaurant. Mm-hmm. People may or may not remember the food. They will 100% remember how you made them feel. Right. They will absolutely remember that moment that was created where they had that huge belly laugh. Mm-hmm. And one of my colleagues that used to work here, good friend Paul Martin, he used to tell the staff all the time, like, Brennan's is fancy enough. We need to help people relax so that they're comfortable in the atmosphere, so that they can laugh, and they do realize that we're not curing cancer here. What we do is serious, but it's not life-changing serious. It is about creating that element of relaxation and creating memories. And you go to some restaurants, and we've all been to them, where you get these really tightly wound moments where every little thing is controlled. And that is really hard to do and should be celebrated. But I would argue that more guests remember moments at their small family restaurant, or that restaurant where they go and have that great laugh, and they are not only are they allowed to relax, they're encouraged to relax and just be in the moment. And if everything is so scripted that you don't remember it. And that's why, look at some of those great restaurants, you don't see people going back all the time. You know, they might go back once a year, once every couple years. But you look at a restaurant like, you know, Brennan's or, you know, Ralph's on the Park or Commander's or Arno's or some of those restaurants, you have people going back more than once a month. And that's because of how they make people feel. Everybody, look why you and people listening to this podcast, there's a reason why you go back to your barber. There's a reason why you go. It's how they make you feel. It's not the haircut. You can go 1,000 places to get your haircut. It's how comfortable you are in that environment, how you're made to feel. And that's why people keep going back to those experiences. And that's what we're trying to create here at Brennan's.
That's absolutely wonderful. We're going to take a short break, everyone, and you'll hear a bit from our sponsors, but we'll be right back for you shortly.
DirecTV for Business National Accounts provides your customers the ultimate entertainment experience and the very best content. And becoming a national accounts client gives you the ultimate partner in curating that experience to your business's unique needs and brand standards across all locations nationwide. From exclusive live sports to real-time news and weather, premium content and consistent performance are just the beginning. With the largest support footprint in the industry, DirecTV for Business National Accounts provides a consultative experience like no other. Clients enjoy a relationship defined by white glove service with dedicated account and program managers to assist you every step of the way. From custom content recommendations that will keep your customers coming back to simplified and consolidated billing solutions, DirecTV for Business National Accounts provides proactive and responsive support, partnering with you to create a best-in-class experience for you and your customers. When you become a DirecTV for Business National Accounts client, you'll experience how ultimate entertainment and the power of strategic partnership empower you to create an unparalleled customer experience.
This is Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser. Satisfy your cravings with world-famous Louisiana seafood. All the flavors you love, prepared by our world-famous chefs, and fresh from our bountiful waters to your plate. So head over to your local favorite restaurant and be sure to ask for authentic Louisiana seafood. Brought to you by the Louisiana Restaurant Association and Louisiana Seafood Board. A perfect pair.
Not just anybody can make the perfect Sazerac. And not just anybody can offer Louisiana's hospitality industry the perfect workers' comp coverage. The Louisiana Restaurant Association's SIF team knows what hospitality businesses need. We truly care about your team's safety and your success. Everybody who's anybody goes with LRA workers' comp. Ask around. In this business, word of mouth is everything.
Tell me how it's been being a part of the Louisiana Restaurant Association and how your first memories being aware of the organization and kind of being a part of it as general manager of, well, a member, which is Brennan's.
Yes. Well, my first memory goes back to Ralph introducing me to Stan Harris and Wendy Warren and just starting to, make me feel welcome and a part of New Orleans and a part of the restaurant community here in New Orleans and throughout Louisiana. And then what's nice is, going to the LRA show in the summer in August, and I think it's moving this coming year, but and again, seeing those same faces, having Stan and Wendy introduce you to other people and making that connections. And, that's one of the things I tell people that's very different about Louisiana and New Orleans compared to DC and New York is this is really a tight community of people that will help each other in a moment's notice. And it's, again, not that the industries don't look out for each other in those other cities, but it's not near as community-based, if you will, in terms of the other restaurants helping each other as it is here in New Orleans. And so, it's very hard to tell Stan no if he ever asks you for something, just as who he is as a person. Right. But it's really hard to say no to not want to help an organization that goes out of its way to help anybody, members or non-members. Anything I have never needed something from the LRA and they not be there to support. Again, personally, professionally, or even for people that are not in our industry, the team at the LRA has always been very quick to be helpful and supportive.
It's interesting because you're in a unique position where you started your industry experience, not Louisiana, but in the DC and New York area. Had you had any involvement with their restaurant associations or were aware of theirs?
So
and to the
not
extent that how Louisiana's is kind of, you were talking about that community aspect, that knit community aspect of it.
So I was not introduced to that whatever that organization is in New York. I'm sure they have one. That just wasn't in my circle, if you will. DC, I was aware of DCRA, DC Restaurant Association. They are not, or they were not while I was there, and again, it's been 11 years, as interactive on a daily basis as the LRA is. The one thing that DC does is they do one annual event that's really very clever, and I do wish there was a way for Louisiana to do it. And again, time and space and bandwidth and all that. Right. But they have a annual awards ceremony where restaurants, bars are nominated in different categories, and obviously there's a competitive piece to all of us. I mean, everyone's trying to be the best version of themselves, and so you have your first ceremony when they announce the finalists, and then in the summer they have this huge gathering where the industry comes out and the winners are announced. But really, the best part is afterwards, where there's a huge just party thrown to really celebrate the industry and people come together. And so that's a really unique thing that DC does. They do it really well. It's called the Rammy Awards. And it even goes so far to celebrate suppliers and vendors. So it's not just restaurants, but there's fine dining categories, there's casual categories, there's all kinds of things. So that's on my wish list of, it's something I'd love to create for Louisiana to just further strengthen the ties in the state.
Well, it feels to me, because I experienced my first showcase with the LRA this year, that almost in itself feels like this a huge celebration of the restaurant industry with our kickoff party, and then to seeing all of the exhibits and the restaurant members and booths together, just having some of the best fun I've ever had, but seeing people have just so much fun. I think that also ties into just how close and tightly packed the LRA is, where it just feels like a big community. And I don't know if you could get that anywhere else but Louisiana.
Yeah, you're right. And the LRA does a great, it's always fun to see people in our industry outside of our restaurants. Because even when you go and you see friends in other restaurants, you're either working or that they're working. So it's kind of hard to just kind of exhale a little bit and spend that time with somebody. Where the LRA, the showcase, and some of the other events allow you to have that time where you don't need to go running to take care of another guest or go solve a problem in another part of the restaurant. You can just share that moment with folks. And I would hope that other states do things like that, but like a lot of things, Louisiana does a really, really good job at helping people make connections and maintain those connections, and most importantly, strengthen those connections. And the showcase is one of those ways.
I agree. We're just about to wrap up our episode. I wanted to ask you, I'm sure you're going to be at Brennan's for a very long time. You've already been there for 11 years, but I wanted to ask about your future and Brennan's future, what you see happening. If you're able to go that far.
Sure. I mean, I think I am so proud of what we have accomplished these last 11 years for Brennan's. And I am even more proud of the team that has been built and is being built to ensure that future is brighter than now. I mean, next year, Brennan's will celebrate its 80th anniversary. That's a massive milestone. and such a hard thing to do. And I would tell you that the team that's here from top to bottom is as strong as it's been. There is a talented bench of people. And so whenever Mr. Brennan encourages me to move on to greener pastures, the team that's here will not only carry the torch, they'll carry it even higher than we've done for the last several years, for sure.
That's incredible. And it's interesting that Brennan's will turn 80 around the same time that the Louisiana Restaurant Association will be turning 80.
Same year. Yep. Bananas Foster turns 75 next year, and Brennan's turns 80, and the LRA turns 80 next year. I believe everything. Our two organizations started in 1946.
Yep, that's correct. So. Well, I wanted to thank you so very much for taking the time out of what I'm sure is a very busy schedule, being GM, to come and sit down and talk to me.
Happy to do it anytime. I appreciate, the LRA and all the support they give to all their members and our industry in general, trying to help everyone's life just be a little bit easier so we can have more fun, having something to drink and something to eat together.
Those are very good words to hear. And thank you, everyone, for listening in this week. Make sure to tune in next week for another exciting episode of the We Live to Eat podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Louisiana Restaurant Association's We Live to Eat podcast. Please join us for future podcasts where we'll discuss restaurants, food, and culture in the state where we live to eat. Until then, bon appetit.